I'm still living in last night. What God did in this place with you was, it was something to be remembered. And for many of you, yeah, you can clap for that. For many of you, this is going to be a moment that marks the rest of your life. Like till the day you die, you will go back to last night, 2017 CIY, and say, that was the moment that I took my stand for Jesus Christ. And I'm so proud of those of you who did. But I want to talk for just a minute to those of you who didn't. Now, many of you came in, you're already Christ followers, you're already serious about Christ, and you didn't need last night. Last night was good, it was confirmation, but it wasn't a line in the sand. You've already given your commitment to Jesus. And there's some of you that is like, man, you're not quite there yet. And you don't know what to do with that because like your friends went forward and you felt something, but it wasn't enough to push you across the line. Listen, that's not a party foul, okay? You're okay. You're okay. And just because you didn't feel it last night or just because you didn't take that step last night doesn't mean that Jesus has forgotten you or is finished with you. So for those of you who you're still a pre-Christian. You're not ready to give your life to Christ. Let me just tell you a story from John chapter 20 about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Because this is so informative for where you are and where you could be, even as early as this morning or this afternoon, or maybe tonight's your night. I don't know. Here's what I do know. That Jesus, after he rose from the dead, met people where they were and how they needed. He met people where they were and how they needed. So it really began pre-dawn. Full moon of Passover is still out, and a woman named Mary, skanky past, she leads a group of women to the tomb because she wants to anoint Jesus with oil. It didn't matter to her that Nicodemus, who buried Jesus, put 75 pounds of spices on him. This was her oil. This was her moment. It was her expression of thanks to Jesus. And so there she is. Before the sun is even up, she and these gals are going to the tomb with this little jar of oil. On the way, they hadn't thought this far in advance. On the way, they said, there's a 2,000-pound stone in front of the entrance. What are we going to do about that? I don't know, what are we going to do? And they start planning and thinking. There's really nothing they can do. If they get there, the stone is there. They're stuck because it's not just the stone, it's the Roman soldiers barring the door. But they still go because they're compelled. And when they get there, their problem is solved because the stone is rolled away. But that creates a bigger problem because not only is the stone rolled away, the body is taken away, and Mary just freaks. Like, I don't know if your mother's ever done that, but it's just freaks. And she begins to run back to the apostles. They were in an upper room, kind of a secret hideaway. And even though it's early in the morning, she doesn't have to wake them up because nobody is sleeping. They are terrified not only of what happened to Jesus, but what will likely happen to them. They know they're on the firing line with the Roman soldiers as well as the Jewish Sanhedrin. They're nervous. And what makes it worse, Mary bursts through the door. Now, you got to understand a little bit of Mary's past. Before she followed Jesus, she was a prostitute. And not just any prostitute. The Bible says that Mary was possessed by 7 demons. That's a nasty prostitute, I'm just saying. And here she goes, kind of back to her old crazy. She starts screaming at James and John, the other boys, Jesus is gone, he's gone, he's gone. Whoa, stop. What do you mean he's gone? He's gone. Calm down. He's gone. What? Stop. What do you mean he's gone? The stone is rolled away, his body isn't there. That's clear. James and John just instinctively throw on a jacket and start running. John, who was probably about your age when he first started following Jesus, probably 16, maybe 17. He's now 19, 20. Clearly, he's going to outrun an old fat fisherman like Peter. John gets to the tomb first, and Mary, I don't know how far behind she is, but it's John, then Peter, then Mary. John goes up and stops. Stone is rolled away. The body isn't there. But the weirdest thing, when they buried people in those days, they would wrap them in all these cloths. And then we took 75 pounds of spices and interlaced it with the linens. They wrapped Jesus up. That would overcome the powerful stench of the decay. Weirdest thing, whoever stole the body, this is awkward, they unwrapped it. So then now they have a naked, decomposing, stenchy corpse, and they carry that away. Who would do that? And John's just like, he's trying to soak it all in, and it's just odd. By that time, the old fat fisherman comes huffing in behind him, and he just pushes John to the side. He goes into the tomb and stares. And you know what he saw? Not just the linen wrappings, but the head cloth. There was a special cloth they put on the head to cover up the head. And John comes in behind him, and John sees the head cloth. There's only one other time in the Bible where there's a head cloth. And that was when Lazarus was raised from the dead. He took off his head cloth, same word. And I don't know if that was the connection for John, but something clicked in John's heart, and he just goes, he's alive. It's not a lot of evidence, and to John's credit, he is the only person who ever believed in Jesus before he touched him, before he saw him. That's important. We'll circle back to that in a minute. But John, in that moment, just says, I believe. And Peter says, you're nuts. You believe what? That he's raised from the dead. Nobody believed in resurrection from the dead. Not here, not now. And Peter is having a problem with this, but not John. John has crossed a line. And for some of you, you're like John. You don't need a lot, a head cloth. And I get it, I feel it, I believe it, and you're there. But the interesting thing about John, I don't know if you know this, John was called the apostle whom Jesus loved. You remember that? He was in John's inner three. He was loved by Jesus, he loved Jesus, but John had a nasty, nasty temper. In fact, his nickname before meeting Jesus was the Son of Thunder. He was also probably called a son of something else, but we'll not get into that. John had this nasty temper. He threatened to beat people up. He asked Jesus to sit at his right hand. He is aggressive. He is self-promoting. He is arrogant. He is angry. And yet, John, of all the apostles, had the most radical personality change. And I just want to tell you, if you're John out there and you go, you know what, I get it. But the problem is, I've got this anger, or I've got this attitude, or I've got this whatever it is. I want you to know, every one of you, when you meet Jesus, he can radically change your personality. Your doubts can be gone. Your anger can be gone. Your frustration can be gone. He can change who you are. But that's John's story. That's not Peter's story. Peter just like, I'm walking away. And he goes back to the upper room. And I can't really blame him because some of you, you're not John, you're Peter. And you could believe at the head cloth. The problem is not that you don't have enough evidence. The problem is you have too much of a past. Now think about Peter. He has denied Jesus. And though, sure, he wants Jesus to be alive. Yeah, everybody does. But the problem with Peter is what if Jesus is alive? Like, what if he is? What is Peter going to say to Jesus? Because sorry doesn't seem to cut it. And if Jesus is alive, Jesus told him, you are the rock, and I'm going to build my church on you. And I give you the keys of the kingdom. Peter was a big deal, but not now. He blew it. He screwed it up. He spoiled his chance. And if Jesus is alive, what hope is there for Peter to do anything significant for Jesus Christ? Sometimes when you meet Jesus, he helps you get past your past. Sometimes when you meet Jesus, he helps you get past your past. And I know you've screwed up. Welcome to the club. I remember a student of mine, his name was David Hunt. One of the most brilliant students I ever taught. Kind of a short little guy, really smart, but he was also the largest meth dealer in Carthage, Missouri. I mean, crazy. Everyone was afraid of him, including the police. He was so smart that the police could never catch him. But Jesus caught him. And Jesus started pursuing David. And he kept rejecting Jesus. Because of his past, he didn't think he was worthy to do anything for the gospel of Jesus Christ. And one day, this is a crazy story, I was shocked when David told me, because David was not like this hocus pocus weird fringe guy. He was like really scientific. And here's the story he told me. Jesus was pursuing me and I knew it, and I was angry. And one day, it was a spring day, it was a little bit cool, so his windows were rolled up, sun was shining, no wind, it wasn't a storm, it was like a beautiful spring day. He drives by a church, and God's Spirit just called out to David, and it's pulling to David. He whips his truck into the parking lot of a church, and he screams at God, "I will never fear you!" And what happened next, I have no explanation for. The windows are rolled up, and a blast of air shoots through the truck and blows David back in his seat, and God literally shouted back, "You will fear me!" And he did. And because of that moment, David got past his past. He actually came to Bible college, and today he's preaching in a church in Illinois. God has a plan for you, Peter. And sometimes you just go, I'm not ready to cross the line. It's not about Jesus. Can you just admit that? It's about you. That you're not sure that God can use someone who has betrayed him or denied him or let him down. And I just want to say to you, if you didn't come forward last night, you didn't put your rock in the basket last night, you didn't give your heart to Jesus last night because you think you're not worthy, can I speak to you on behalf of Jesus? Get over yourself. It's not about you. It is about him. And if he can take Peter and establish the church of Jesus Christ on him. He was the first person to preach on the day of Pentecost. He was the first person to evangelize the Gentile household. Peter was used by God in extraordinary ways. God has a plan for you. And if you can get past your past, then you can have a very different future. Peter and John, they leave the tomb. Just walk by Mary as if she doesn't even exist. And there she is in a puddle of tears. He was the only man who ever loved her for her. And for some of you, you're like Mary, because your problem is not your past. Your problem is not what you've done. Your problem is what was done to you. And Mary had this life where she was pushed into prostitution. She was possessed by demons. And the only man who ever loved her is now dead. And somebody stole him in a vicious way. And there, with her crocodile tears dripping down her face, a man comes up to her. And she can't see clearly enough to identify his face, but she sees he's dressed in white. And she says to him, "Where have you put him? If you took him somewhere else, please tell me where you put his body." And it was Jesus. She couldn't even recognize him. And for some of you, because of your own, what was done to you, you couldn't even recognize Jesus last night. But maybe like Mary, you heard Jesus call your name. And Jesus right there in front of her, he said, "Mary." And it was how he said her name that opened her eyes. The tenderness, the care, the concern. And maybe you can't even believe that Jesus is that concerned for you because nobody else has cared for you like that. Well, other people have used you, other people have abused you, other people have thrown you away, and you just feel so worthless. But there's something in how he calls your name. And maybe today, as you meet Jesus, again, he will come to you where you are and in the way you need. And if you listen, you can hear him call your name. And maybe you think, yeah, but who's going to listen to me? I mean, after what was done to me and after what I've done, who is going to listen to me? Listen, please. Mary, if you're in the audience and you're hearing me, whether you're a female or a male, someone it's not what you've done, but what others have done to you, listen, please listen. Mary was the first person that Jesus appeared to personally. Mary's the first person that Jesus appeared to personally. And he'll come to you. And when he does, you will have a heritage in Christ that is forever. Your future does not have to be your past. All of them eventually go back to the upper room. And later that evening, Jesus appeared, like the doors are locked. He appears through the walls. He appears through the locked door, and he's just there. How he did it, we don't know. Resurrected body, something. I don't know the physics, but he appears to them, and everyone was there except one man. You know who it was? Thomas. And Thomas comes back. Jesus is gone. I don't know if he was shopping. Maybe he took over for Judas Iscariot. He's the keeper of the funds, and he goes to get food for the weekend. And they all say, it's true. Mary's not crazy. Jesus is alive. And John says, I told you. And Peter says, I saw him too. Everyone's going, he is alive. And Thomas, no. Like, unless I put my fingers in the scars of his hand, if I don't put my fist in the rift in his side, I will not believe. And he's called from then on, you know it, right? Doubting Thomas. Which is unfair because Thomas didn't doubt any more than anybody else. Only John believed in Jesus without seeing him or touching him. And Thomas was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And maybe that's your story. Wrong place, wrong time. Maybe the wrong family. Maybe your family doesn't believe in God. Maybe your family doesn't go to church. Maybe you feel like, man, I'm an outsider. I missed it. So how can I ever get in unless Jesus appears to me? I need proof. I need empirical evidence. I get you, Thomas. Like if you're a doubter, I get you. Because my heart can't rejoice in anything that my mind can't absorb. And maybe for you, you just need some scientific evidence. I don't know, maybe you would be helped by this whole law of the second law of thermodynamics, where you realize, wait a minute, evolution is going, we're not evolving, we're devolving. The world is falling apart. We're entropy. We're losing energy. So God is the one that has to create the energy to bring this stuff to order. Or maybe for you, it's this irreducible complexity. It's a scientific idea that if you have, you can get down to the flagellum of an amoeba. You can get that microscopic and say you have what is the equivalent of an outboard motor in a microscopic flagellum. Like you can't even see with your naked eye. You have to get into a microscope to see it. And suddenly scientists are going, wait a minute, how do we get all of these 5 component parts to work together? And you go, oh, wait a minute, there is a creator for all this. And the evidence is out there if you want to look at it. Or maybe for you, the evidence needs to be sociological, not scientific, where you go, okay, if Jesus Christ really is the Lord, then shouldn't the church, I don't know, create education for women? Yes, we've done that. Create hospitals? Yes, we've done that. Create science as we know it? Yes, we've done that. Create public education? Yes, we've done that. Give compassion to the poor, heal lepers, raise children, adopt kids, be pro-life. All of that the church has done. Or maybe you just need a clear look at the church to see the evidence of what the church has done. Or maybe for you it's not scientific or sociological, maybe it's historical. I will tell you, Thomas, I have looked at the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the historical narrative. There is no other reasonable explanation for the stories that we have in front of us. None. I just challenge you, go check it out yourself. You can doubt me, you can doubt Jesus, but look at the historical text and you will doubt no longer. I have had this discussion everywhere from people who are homeless in a gutter to PhDs in a university. No one has given me a reasonable explanation of the resurrection except that Jesus really did rise from the dead. Now, I don't have time to go through all of the apologetics with you, but Thomas, I'm just telling you, if you're an intellectual and you say, I need proof, it's out there, and Jesus might meet you someday. 1 week later, in the upper room, Thomas is there this time. Jesus, again, just appears. Through the door, through the wall, he's just there. And he looks at Thomas. You should have been there. Thomas's eyes were huge. And he's looking at Jesus like, oops. And Jesus comes up to him and says, so Thomas, why don't you put your fingers right here? Why don't you put your fist in my side? And Thomas, I don't know that he ever did. Jesus said to Thomas, I heard what you said last week. I know your doubts, and I don't doubt you, even if you doubt me. And Thomas, in that moment, said something that no human being in the history of the world had ever said. No Jew in the history of the world had ever said this to another Jew. He looked at Jesus and said, my Lord and my God. Thomas, okay, I get it. You need evidence. You need some empirical, tangible evidence. Jesus will give it to you. But in that moment when he does, be prepared for this. He will tell you, I understand your doubts. You're not throwing him. You're not confusing him. You're not saying something that is so shocking to Jesus, he's going to be put off by you. Jesus will meet every one of you where you are in the way you need him to meet you. My question for you is, when he does, what will you do? For Thomas, he actually went to India, according to early church history, and planted a church in India, the most populated country on the planet. And there he gave his life for Jesus Christ. The doubter became a martyr when 4 foreigners stabbed him with spears all through his body. He was willing to give his life for Jesus Christ. Are you? Mary? John? Peter? Thomas? What will you do on earth for God's sake?